Welcome to part 2 of the worst multi-class challenge, the series where you all voted on the worst multi-classes in the entire game, and it's my job to try and make them as good as possible. Last video we tackled the Druid and Artificer combo and were able to make something quite spectacular, but today's challenge is going to be a bit tougher. This is the third worst multi-class with 140 votes. This is the Absurd. The Absurd is a multi-class where we have to dip into every single class in the entire game. Are we going to make something good, or are we going to have an absurd failure? Let's find out in today's build. Today's video is sponsored by the Crystals of Zleth. The Crystals of Zleth is a solo survival campaign released by Obvious Mimic. They not only hit their Kickstarter goal, but they blew it out of the water, making over $100,000 towards this project. So if you want to be one among the many who are going to try out this solo campaign, you can get it at a pre-order discount price by using our link in the description down below. I played an Obvious Mimic solo campaign in the past, and I can highly recommend it, especially at a discount price, so check it out. But without further ado, we're jumping back into the build. Now, a note with this build, technically, we could take 8 levels in a very powerful early based class. I'm thinking something like Cleric. And from there, we can take 1 level into each other class, and so we can do a build that way. It probably would be better, but I feel like that steps out of the spirit of the challenge. So I'm adding an extra rule. I can't dip more than 3 levels into any class before I have a level in every single class. So given this criteria, what challenges do we face if we decide to go this route? The first challenge is, how in the hell do we scale our damage? We're never going to get multi-attack. When it comes to features like sneak attack or monk's die, we're never going to scale it. We're never going to get high level spells either. We'll get high level spell slots, but the highest level spell we're going to get is 2nd level. How do we scale? Well, the answer is cantrips. Cantrips scale based off your base level, and so they are the obvious choice with this build. Now, if you're going a cantrip build, you're probably wanting to do an Eldritch Blast build, so let's focus in on that. Now, that tells us Charisma is going to be our primary stat. And speaking of stats, that is our second biggest challenge, is we have to have 13 in every single stat besides Constitution. That is a major downside. However, it does tell us a lot about how we're going to build this build. For example, we need to go Human Lineage because every single one of their 6 points is relevant. And without them, our stats are going to just be way lower. So Human it is as far as our lineage goes. It also tells us which armor we're going to use. Light armor and heavy armor both require more investment to get the full value out of them than medium armor does. Medium, you only need a 14 in dexterity and you get the maximum amount of value. Because we need every single stat point possible, we're going to be going medium armor. Now, I will say, this build is not possible with standard array. It's most likely going to be point buy that you can manage to pull this off, or unless you roll really well if you're rolling for stats, but I'm going to assume point buy. With point buy, we're going to get 13 in strength, 14 in dexterity, 10 in constitution, 13 in intelligence, 13 in wisdom, and 16 in charisma. Now, as you can see right here, we're going to be extremely squishy. With only a 10 in constitution, we are going to die extremely quick, and we're not going to be able to maintain our concentration well. This means we're really going to want to be a backline caster, so Eldritch Blasting is definitely a good idea for this build. Now, with our base set up, let's jump into the level by level breakdown. Level 1, we're going Warlock. We're going to be picking up Eldritch Blast here, as well as Hex. I'm going to be taking the Fathomless subclass because it gives us a bonus action attack that scales with our proficiency bonus. This also just happens to come with a great swimming speed and the ability to breathe underwater, and then we attach that all to Wisdom saving throws, which are the best saving throws in the game, which we need. Level 2, we're going into Warlock 2. We're going to be picking up Agonizing Blast and Repelling Blast. This creates the basis for us to be an Eldritch Blaster, and now that we have that established, we're done being a Warlock. We're going to be moving into Level 3, Artificer. Artificer comes in giving us medium armor and shields. We're also going to get some spells, but I'll be talking about spells later in the video. Level 4, we're going Artificer 2, and we're going to be picking up Infusions. Enhanced Defense is going to increase our AC by 1. Fantastic. And then we're going to be picking up Enhanced Arcane Focus. This gives us basically a +1 to our Eldritch Blast, which is important because normally a Warlock would be scaling their ASI at this level, so this keeps us in line with other Warlocks. On top of that, if we have a staff in one hand, we make it our Arcane Focus. We have a shield in our other hand with a holy symbol on it. That setup allows us to have an Arcane Focus for every single class in the game. pretty neat. So we'll never have to be juggling anything when we want to be casting spells from whatever class we're casting those spells from. So largely what we've done is established an archery type playstyle, and then we focused on getting our defense up a bit higher, as well as a bit in our offense as well. Overall, we're playing like a backline archer. We're still hexing, eldritch blasting, and using our bonus action to create a tentacle to get some extra damage off. From here, I'm going to be taking 3 levels into sorcerer. That'll be levels 5, 6, and 7. Now, all of these levels are about getting quickened spell. The thing about this build is we're going to be going into a lot of different spellcasters, so we're going to get high level spell slots, but we're only going to have 1st or 2nd level spells. By taking some levels in sorcerer and getting quickened spell, we can transmute those spell slots into sorcery points, which we can turn into bonus action eldritch blasts. So we are going to become an eldritch machine gun. Now keep in mind, there are some 1st and 2nd level spells that can be upcast pretty reliably. Now our DC isn't amazing, but it's not horrible either. So something like Hold Person, upcast at 5th level, can target 4 different humanoids and try and paralyze them. So look for those opportunities to still get some value out of your spells, but a lot of times you're not going to be able to. That's where these sorcery points come in. At level 8, I'll be going into Cleric. This scales our Eldritch Machine Gun playstyle while giving us more spell slots, and we also get a subclass. I'm going to be going into Peace Domain. It gives us pseudo bless that we can use without concentration, and it scales off a proficiency bonus. I think it's a great option for us. Level 9, we're going to be going into Bard, continuing to scale our Eldritch Machine Gun playstyle, but now we also get Bardic Inspiration. Because we've invested in our Charisma, we get a handful of them, and they're a good option for using a bonus action outside of our Tentacle or Quickening Eldritch Blast. Level 10, Wizard. It scales our Eldritch Machine Gun playstyle. From there, we go Wizard and pick up War Magic. This will just make our saves generally way better. It'll keep us from casting spells, but we want to be Eldritch Machine Gunning more often anyways, so it's a great just buff to our AC and saves in general. Now level 12, we have an optimal route and then the fun route. Obviously I'm going to be doing the fun route, but I'll let you know what the optimal route is. The optimal route will be going into Bard until we get Eloquence. This continues to scale our Eldritch Machine Gun. Then we get the ability to be an incredible face outside of combat by taking expertise in deception and persuasion. Then we have Eloquence's Bard, just like broken ability to be an amazing face. But then they also give us an alternate use of our Bardic Inspiration where we can reduce somebody's resistance to our spells, as long as it's like a spell save DC setup. And since we have an average spell save DC, it'll go a long way to making our Hold Persons, for example, a lot more potent. Then we'll want to pick up Wizard and Cleric levels till we get to level 15, and then from there we'll just take 1 level in every class that we haven't taken a level in, starting with Barbarian and ending with Druid. That's probably optimal, but we end up just pushing all of the classes to the end of the game, as opposed to trying to do more with them. For that reason, I'm going to be going a different route. The option I'm going to be taking is going Fighter at level 12. This just gives us the defense fighting style and a little bit of healing, but then once we get to level 13, we get Action Surge. Now we can Eldritch Blast, bonus action Eldritch Blast, and we are truly launching a ton of Eldritch Machine Guns. Level 14, I'll go Rogue, pick up Expertise and Stealth, and level 15, we'll get Cunning Action. This gives us bonus action Hide, increasing what we can do with our bonus actions, and bonus action Hide with Expertise is going to give us way more survivability than our AC and our Constitution ever can. It's going to also give us advantage on our first Eldritch Blast of the round, and so it gives us a lot of in and out playstyle, a lot more protection, a lot more defensive style. Now, whether you went the optimal route or the fun route, from here on, it's going to be the same. Level 16, we go Barbarian. Largely not useful for us, but I can see moments where we can rage just to reduce the amount of damage coming at us, maybe when we're retreating or something. 17, 18, and 19 is Paladin, Monk, and Ranger. They simply don't do anything for us. And then level 20, finally, we're picking up Druid. The reason I put Druid at the end, it hurts our AC. Druids don't allow us to have as good of an AC as we would have. It scales our Eldritch Machine Gunning, but it's not worth the reduction in defense. So I pushed Druid as far back as possible because I didn't want that debuff on an already squishy build. So how did we do? Well, we took something totally absurd and we made something still pretty absurd. We're going to be below scaling when it comes to everybody. Our stats are hurt right from the beginning of the game, and because we can never get an ASI with this particular build, our stats are going to be low through the entire game. Now, we try and make up for that by having quite a bit of flexibility. We have every 1st and 2nd level spell in the game at our fingertips, so we have a ton of spammables, and we have the spell slots to spam them. Things like Shield or Silvery Barbs or Absorb Elements. We're going to have no end of being able to cast them. We're a solid Eldritch Machine Gunner. We're going to have 4 attacks, then we're going to Action Surge 4 attacks, we're going to bonus action 4 attacks. We're going to have Hex combined with that. We're going to be able to mix Tentacle in when we're out of quickened spells. We can do bonus action Hide. We do have a ton of flexibility when it comes what kind of damage we're dealing, how we want to deal skill it. We have the innate bless, so our damage becomes more accurate, as well as buffing our teammates, so we're a bit more support. So there's 100 things we can do, but we don't do anything fantastic, if that makes sense. So while I think this build is viable, technically, I think it will be below average at most tables. But let's be honest, if you're running absurd, you're not here for optimization in the first place. And with that, my friends, I hope to see you on the next build where we are tackling the second worst multi-class of all time. But until then, I hope you have yourselves an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.